Remember growing up and hearing about the popular urban legends such as Bloody Mary or the babysitter who received threatening calls that were coming from inside the house? And you wanted to visit the areas known as Gravity Hill or Ghost Hill to see if your car would come up the slope on its own violation, and you tested it. Like most U.S. states, Alaska is home to several such hills where gravity reportedly works in reverse. If it's late at night and you're home all alone, beware. This list is truly spooky, and you might be laying in bed all night listening for fading laughter or approaching footsteps. Welcome to Alaska, a realm of vast, untracked wilderness where monsters and evil spirits slither through the darkest parts of the land's day-long nights. There aren't many Alaskan urban legends, but that doesn't mean that the state is devoid of local legends and tall tales. On the contrary, the state is home to dozens of monsters and ghost accounts, documenting everything from UFOs to murder. Here's some of the spookiest urban legends from Alaska. Mother Lode Lodge. Mother Lode Lodge, Palmer, Alaska, almost 11 miles from Lazy Mountain, Alaska. The historic lodge is believed to be haunted by several spirits. People have seen a misty black apparition roaming the grounds of the lodge, and people looking into mirrors see figures in period clothing standing behind them. Loud banging noises and knocks have been heard, as well as the voice of a young girl. Doors and curtains open and close late at night by themselves. At this place, in earlier days, guests used to come and stay at this lodge. It was kind of an accommodation for people who weren't the regular residents of this place. Out of the many guests that came and stayed there, some of them claimed to have felt the presence of some unknown and unexplained things. There have been many strange experiences and weird phenomena here, although recently this place was destroyed in 2015 due to a fire. Anchorage Hotel. If you are a doubting Thomas, then you need to go to the historic Anchorage Hotel. It will make you a believer. Stories of ghostly happenings have been told about this hotel for many years. One of the stories is related to the one-time chief of police, Jack Sturgis. He was the first police chief of Anchorage, and he died just a few steps away from the Anchorage Hotel from a bullet in the back. It is said that he visits the scene of the crime every year to find his killer, as his murder remains unsolved to this day. Several guests have reported seeing the apparition of a young girl walking in the second-floor hall. The televisions in room 217 and 215 turn on and off on their own, and faucets in the room's sinks and tub run on their own, despite regular checks by the plumbers. And then there is the ghost of the woman who hung herself while still wearing her wedding dress. It's believed that she was heartbroken when her groom failed to show up on their wedding day. Guests have also reported seeing pictures fly off the walls and various faces and figures appearing in the hotel halls. Hotel employees are bothered by these ghosts that regularly, they even keep a diary to log in all the activity. Van Gilder Hotel. This place was built in 1916, a very old hotel. It's in Seward, Alaska, and it's a well-known historical building, and it's still accepting guests. It once started off as an office building, but was then converted into apartments, and later transformed into a hotel. In a small historical town like that, when something is haunted, everyone knows, and that hotel was haunted. In 1947, a woman named Fanny Guthrie Bame was shot by her husband with a shotgun to the head in room 202. There have been numerous sightings of her ghost at the foot of the bed in that room. But that's not all. There's one more ghost, a young man that walks the stairs. So if you give this hotel a visit, be sure to book room 202 to get your closest encounter with the spirits. Golden North Hotel of Skagway, Alaska. This hotel is said to be haunted by two different entities. The first is a female spirit called Mary, who spends most of her time in room 23 up on the hotel's third floor. According to local legend, Mary was staying at the hotel while awaiting the return of her fiancé, who was on a gold prospecting expedition. Sadly, Mary caught pneumonia and died in her room. Guests sleeping in the room have not only seen Mary's apparition, but they have also experienced choking and breathless sensations. The second spirit can be found in room 14 and usually manifests as an unexplained orb of light. The origin of Scary Mary. One of the most legendary ghosts in Alaska goes by the name of Scary Mary, and her story begins with a gold rush expedition. Mary came to Skagway, Alaska as a blushing young woman, already engaged to a prospector that went by the name of Klondike Ike. She checked into the Golden North Hotel, where she and Ike became engaged and were set to start their future together. The two lovers spent several days at the hotel before Ike had to return to his prospecting ventures over Chilcot Pass. Mary's fiancé, Klondike Ike, set off over 500 miles to the gold fields with tremendously high hopes that he would win them their fortune. Unfortunately for both Ike and Mary, Ike never returned. Ever the loyal partner, Mary waited for Ike to return home to her. She locked herself in the room that the couple had rented, lost in the abyss of worry for her lover, and waited. When the housekeepers of the Golden North Hotel finally broke down the door with concern, they discovered Mary in her wedding dress, dead. In many of the stories, it's said that Mary ended up coming down with a fatal case of pneumonia while waiting for Ike in room 23. Other stories simply state that after months of waiting for his return, she just simply locked herself in her room and disallowed any company and refused to eat. And legend says that Mary still hasn't checked out of her room at the Golden North Hotel since her death arrived all too soon, that she has been checking up on guests in the middle of the night. Her apparition appears as a pale figure and is seen looking through the hotel windows, waiting for her lover's return from the mountains. The Erskine House Ghost. Right here in Kodiak, Alaska, is a ghost. The Erskine House, which is now the Baranov Museum, was originally built in 1808. A century later, McIntyre, a local fur trapper, was living there with other traveling tradesmen. He wasn't the friendliest man, often insulting the career choices of his peers, so it comes as little surprise that one night, someone had enough. A bullet shot from the woods took his life, right in the kitchen. His murderer was never found. McIntyre opted not to leave the earthly dimension, however, and remains in the building, primarily coming out after dark to roam the house. An abandoned copper mine is the most haunted place in Alaska. Just after the turn of the 20th century, the Kennecott copper mine outside of McCarthy, Alaska, was an enormously profitable venture, producing thousands of jobs and a 30-year economic boom for the little Alaskan town. The railroad through the area was eventually abandoned due to the cost of constantly changing its position across a nearby glacier, and the mining camp became a ghost town. A very haunted ghost town. So haunted, in fact, that the spectral phenomena in that area, which included tombstones appearing and then vanishing along the hiking trails. And then you got the sounds of crying children, and poltergeist activity was enough to drive away state government workers who were trying to redevelop the area into government housing projects during the 1990s. The ghost menacing tactics included the effects mentioned above, along with stealing workers' tools right out of their belts and toolboxes. Perhaps the restless spirits of the Kennecott mines don't want anyone jumping their claims, even after all these years. The Alaska Triangle rivals the Bermuda Triangle. The state of Alaska is one of the most remote places in the United States, boasting more unsettled wilderness than any other part of the country. It also has a missing persons rate of nearly twice the national average, and a large portion of those people who have disappeared in a region of the state and part of Canada known as the Alaska Triangle. The triangle covers an area of the state from the Juneau-Yakutat area in the south up to the Barrow Mountain Range in the north, with Anchorage situated to the west of both of them and roughly equidistant from those 2 points as well. Thousands of people have disappeared without a trace in this area of the last frontier, on foot, boats, cars, and in airplanes. The most famous case was the October 1972 vanishing of a Cessna 310 airplane and carrying then U.S. House of Representatives Majority Leader Hale Boggs, Representative Nick Begich, their aide Russell Brown, and their pilot Don Johns. This disappearance led to one of the largest manhunts in Alaska's history, lasting 39 days and involving 400 aircraft and 12 U.S. Coast Guard vessels. But no trace of the missing congressmen or their plane was ever found, not even any wreckage that could have been associated with their Cessna, and to this day, their true fate remains a mystery. Why it's creepy? Encompassing an area ranging from near Juneau in the southeast to the northern Barrow region to the western metropolis of Anchorage. Alaska's answer to the Bermuda Triangle is comprised some of the most barren wilderness in the U.S., and it apparently craves souls. More than 20,000 people have gone missing without a trace in that area during the past half-century alone. Are they being consumed by mythological beings like the beastly Kalut or the ghoulish kidnapper Kalupilik, lost on extreme hikes, or simply vanishing into a dark vortex? Nobody knows, though it's not for lack of trying. When the government lost House Majority Leader Hale Boggs' Cessna to the Triangle in 1972, a massive search turned up tons of conspiracy theories, but no bodies. Where it came from? The area has been associated with evil spirits and Klingit lore for centuries, attributed trickster demons for luring people to an icy death. Others believe the area exists amid an electromagnetically influenced wild vortex. Still, others think it's a Darwinian result of explorers taking on nature. Regardless, the area continues to claim people, and underneath that massive blanket of snow and rock likely lies one of the largest and best preserved mass graves in the world. Haunted Halls on a Lonely Lady at Anchorage's West High School. They say there's a lady in white who haunts the old auditorium of Anchorage's West High School on the South Bluff overlooking Westchester Lagoon. She's been spotted off and on for decades, sometimes standing mute among darkened seats in the cavernous and echoing space, and sometimes fleeing through corridors, and sometimes lurking backstage or in the fluorescent lit basement halls. The sightings have a remarkable consistency, always a female, elusive and wearing white clothes. A variety of people, school officials, students, visitors, have contributed to the unsettling reports. Some witnesses claim that they had never even heard of any kind of West High ghost in advance to their own weird encounters. Another West haunting might include a former janitor, long deceased, who has been seen persistently sweeping the lobby when no one should be present. There have also been reports of footsteps tip-tapping around the corner of empty halls and slamming doors and lights switching on and off by themselves. All signs that one might not be as alone as they think, especially when the hour is particularly late. But it's the unknown lady who returns most frequently. A few years ago, a student stage manager saw a girl open an off-limits backstage door during a dress rehearsal and jumped up in exasperation. When he opened the door into an alcove to confront her for violating the rules, no one was there. 2 assistant principals and a security guard were rattled when something in white flashed by them in the strange, narrow corridor behind the balcony. To this day, one of those assistant principals will not talk about what happened and refuses to discuss it. One student said when entering the supposedly empty theater last year with a group, she spied a young woman wearing white clothes standing above them in the balcony, looking down. And when she asked her friend, "Do you see her?" the figure vanished. Driving down this haunted Alaska road will give you nightmares. In Chujiak, you can take a bone-chilling drive down Badarka Road in the woods of South Birchwood. The road is known to be haunted by a man and his daughter who died a tragic death. Their ghosts and their cries can be heard from the road as long as you drive deep enough into the forest. The sad tale of these 2 haunted spirits is one of the more popular ghost stories in Alaska. Though the actual location of Badarka Road is not on any map, you will find the unnamed gravel road leading into the woods out of town in South Birchwood. You can try to find the road and take a scary nighttime road trip, but read the ghost story first and then tell me if you dare. About halfway down Badarka Road, a father took his young daughter to gather firewood for their cabin. The young girl was only 5 years old and was hoping to help her father. She pulled his axe from the tree while he was resting, causing the tree to fall and kill her instantly. The father, filled with grief, sat in the snow for days, holding her lifeless body until hypothermia took his own life. It is said that if you travel down this road at 3:30 a.m., you can catch a glimpse of the father holding his blood-covered daughter deep in the woods along this road. Baggage Towers, Whittier, Alaska. Whittier in Alaska is not at all large, so almost all of its 215 residents live in Baggage Towers condominium. The 14-story tower also houses stores, churches, and public utilities. One of the ghosts who call Baggage Towers home is particularly fond of whistling as he strolls through the building, while another is more likely to be heard stomping up and down the stairs. On one occasion, the city manager actually woke up to hear rustling noises in her kitchen, but upon exploration, there was nobody there. Locals say that Baggage Towers are at their most frightening in the winter months, when heavy snowfall often clogs up the roads, leaving residents unable to leave. This building was built for servicemen and their families in 1952, but after the Army withdrew from ownership of the building, it became condominiums for most of Whittier's residents. Many residents have reported a weird, shadowy apparition roaming the hallways late at night, as well as strange voices, the rattling of chains, and the sound of whistling. Lake Iliamna. In Alaska, there's the legend of the beast of Lake Iliamna, a giant pack-hunting fish that has been terrorizing people on the lake's surface since prehistoric times. Both Aleut and Tlingit legends feature tales of the lake monster, and several modern sightings have lent stories a bit of credibility with the cryptid hunters. The mysterious animal that people say that they see in Iliamna Lake is dark, longer than 15 feet, with a long head and tail with distinct fins. It isn't a whale or a seal, and it often vanishes quickly. Fishermen have even tried hooking it. The newspaper once offered $100,000 for proof of its existence. The elusive Iliamna Lake monster is a remote Alaskan mystery. North America is filled with tales of strange creatures that may or may not exist. Many of them are legends that have been passed down for generations. Most people are familiar with the tales of legendary cryptids like Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster. However, there are a few obscure mystery creatures, both here and around the world, that do not get as much attention. Such is the case with the Alaska's Iliamna Lake Monster. This aquatic creature, reported to be a giant freshwater fish, has mystified people for decades now. Skeptics say there are logical explanations for the fish that allegedly grows to lengths over 30 feet long. However, some locals insist that the Lake Iliamna monster is real, and it is a species that is still unknown to science. We are not quite sure what the truth is, but it does make for a fascinating tale. The monster legend. The first modern reports of something mysterious swimming around in Alaska's largest lake started to gain attention in the 1940s. However, Native American legends about mysterious creatures go back even further. According to cryptids, the Tlingit people have a legend about a water monster named the Gonakadet, which is described as resembling a well. The Aleutian people also had their own monster story about a beast called Jijinak. The interesting thing about this tale is that the creature allegedly killed and ate people traveling via water. The Aleut legend describes it as being like a fish. The legend lives on. While there are many possible logical explanations for the Iliamna lake monster, until someone proves one of them, the legend will continue to live. Perhaps an angler will land a 20-foot white sturgeon in there one day, proving that it was all a mistaken identity. Or perhaps there are no sturgeon there, and the tales of snapped wire leaders and bent saltwater hooks are just that, a fisherman's tall tale that we may never know for sure. Eldred Rock Lighthouse, located in the middle of the remote Lynn Canal in the Alaskan Panhandle, has a very storied and, in some cases, tragic history. This lighthouse, along with 9 others, were commissioned after a series of deadly shipwrecks in the vicinity. The most notorious of these was the wreck of the Clara Nevada steamship, which ran aground on Eldred Rock in February of 1898. The vessel burst into flames and sank, claiming as many as 75 lives. It's also believed that hundreds of pounds of gold were lost in the disaster. The gold has never been recovered. The lights cut on in the lighthouse around 1906, and it's been in operation since. It's the only lighthouse from the original 10 that still remains standing. Sporting an octagonal frame, the lighthouse was constructed using concrete and large timbers. Eldred Rock Lighthouse was much larger than the other lighthouses, which may account for its longevity. Manned until 1973, there were several other tragedies at the Rock. In 1910, 2 assistant keepers were on their way back to the island but were lost to the canal. The Eldred Rock Lighthouse and surrounding structures are all listed on the National Registry of Historic Places. It's the souls of these unfortunate passengers and sailors of the Clara Nevada and other countless shipwrecks that are believed to haunt the island and the surrounding waters to this day. Old Jesse Lee Home for Children in Seward, Alaska. The Jesse Lee Home for Children first opened in 1926. In its heyday, it would have been home to hundreds of orphans. However, the property suffered a massive amount of damage in 1964 during an earthquake, and allegedly several of the children were killed. It is these poor children who are now said to haunt this deteriorating property. Those who come to visit the building have reported feelings of dread and despair upon entering the building. It is also common for visitors to hear giggling children, even though none are present. The sound of jump ropes and bouncing balls can often be heard as well. There are often small shadowy figures seen flitting past the windows as well, seen by those standing outside the building. Despite fundraising to restore the site, demolition of the house began on November 4th, 2020. The Wendy Williamson Auditorium. The Wendy Williamson Auditorium is just over 40 years old. so it's not certainly particularly old. However, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have its fair share of ghosts. There is one particular spirit who is said to be a fairly angry male with a dislike for brunettes. Women who have long brown hair are often pushed by this unseen force. There have also been reports of a woman in white appearing during a performance, and at first the audience just assumes it's part of the show. That's until she disappears. Some reports also refer to giggling children and a teenage boy haunting the building. Night Mute High School. A little girl is said to haunt the school's bathrooms, and she is known to flush toilets and flick the lights on and off. However, unlike Moaning Myrtle, she's not confined to the bathroom. She's also been heard wandering around the school humming, and she often plays with basketballs if they're left unattended in the gym. Unfortunately, nobody's actually sure who this ghost girl actually is, but a grave was discovered underneath room 106, which might explain the origin of the hauntings of Night Mute High School. Red Onion Saloon in Skagway, Alaska. The Red Onion Saloon in Skagway was originally a brothel, but it has served various purposes over the years, including an army barracks, a bakery, a laundromat, a union hall, a gift shop, and even a television studio. And these days, you can take a guided tour of the property with tour guides dressed as madames of the era. It's really like just taking a step back into the height of the gold rush. The Red Onion Saloon had a very unique way of doing business. The first floor was the bar area, and the upper floor had 10 rooms where the ladies could entertain their guests. Down in the bar, there were 10 dolls, each representing the working girls. If the doll was laid flat on her back, it meant the girl was occupied, and if she was sitting upright, it meant she was available. In terms of paranormal activity, one of the most prominent ghosts that are said to call the Red Onion Saloon home is a female spirit known as Lydia. It's believed that Lydia was one of the prostitutes that once worked at the brothel. Her footsteps are often felt on the second floor where the brothel used to operate, and visitors also report a strong scent of perfume and unusual cold spots. Lydia has also been seen as a full-body apparition walking around in the madame's room and sometimes running down the hall. Strangely enough, Lydia is said to water the plants often, and the hostess will come in and find the soil in the pots damp. On occasion, Lydia is also said to behave very aggressively toward the men. The Northern Lights. There are various Alaskan folklore stories about the origin and purpose of the Northern Lights. Some of the most intriguing include ball playing. The Inuits believed the Northern Lights were the spirits of their dead ancestors playing ball with a walrus skull. Alternatively, the people of Nunavak Island believed the lights were the spirits of walruses playing ball with a human skull. Guiding spirits. Some Inuit tribes believed the lights were spirits carrying torches to help them find lost souls who needed help in crossing over to the paradise on the other side. The spirits of animals. Some Alaskan tribes believed the lights were the spirits of the animals that they hunted and killed for food and clothing, playing free in the sky. UFOs in the Alaska Triangle. It's not just disappearances that happen in the Alaska Triangle. In 1986, a Japanese airliner going from Iceland to Anchorage reported being followed for more than 400 miles by 3 UFOs across the empty Alaskan wilderness, including part of the area of the Alaska Triangle. The pilots of the airplane said there was a large UFO about the size of 2 aircraft carriers, with 2 smaller scout vessels following it. They asked for and obtained permission to perform evasive maneuvers, but the UFOs continued following them until they reached Fairbanks, and then they flew away. No one knows what the UFOs were or why they were following the plane. The saber wolf of Alaska. Saber-toothed tigers may have once roamed North America, but according to local Inuit tribes in Alaska, a saber wolf still lives there. Legends going back generations tell of a wolf-like spirit that is evil and bites the heads off of people in what is known as the Headless Valley. While the valley is in Canada, there have been modern sightings of the wolf in Alaska, including by an American mechanic and by the crew of the TV show Alaska Monsters. Cryptozoologists speculate that the saber wolf might be an archaic species of the dire wolf, or even a bear dog creature that was thought to have gone extinct in the Eocene era. As no one has captured one, no one knows. What is the legend of the Kushtaka? The Tlingit people of southeastern Alaska speak of shapeshifters that await those who wander into the wilderness or the ocean. The Kushtaka initially look like humans and sometimes appear when someone is injured or is in trouble. The creatures claim to help or rescue those that they find, but according to legend, the Kushtaka take their quarry further into the wild, turning them into fellow shape-shifting beasts. In some versions of the legend, these malevolent beings led sailors to their deaths, while others rescue children from the intense cold when they are lost, only to turn them into Kushtaka as well. Others state that these beasts imitate the cries of a baby or a woman in trouble to lure their prey, eventually tearing them to shreds. While sea otters are cute, the Kushtaka version of the hairy humanoid-figured sea otter is quite terrifying. What does the Kushtaka do? A Kushtaka can look like a fellow human being, but when alerted, they shapeshift into a large, hairy humanoid figure, resembling a giant sea otter. According to the legend, Kushtaka are interested in creating more beings like themselves. If that doesn't work, they destroy the Tlingit that they have captured, making them unable to reincarnate. Then the original beast will shapeshift into the appearance of a human again. What does the Kushtaka look like? The name Kushtaka describes what one of these mythical creatures looks like. There are more than 26,000 little otter men swimming along the shores of Alaska, so it is easy to see how the legend of Kushtaka can seem so overwhelmingly real. Playful sea otters frolic in an ocean inlets all over southwestern Alaska, but according to the Tlingit legend, some of these charming creatures are shapeshifters that turn into dangerous men. The sea otter is the smallest marine animal with an extremely thick fur coat. The luxurious pelts were highly sought after, and people hunted otters for 150 years, bringing their numbers from 300,000 animals to 2,000 by 1911. With the temporary halt on hunting, the sea otter population has grown, making it the perfect symbol for a creature of folklore that can turn children into kustakas like themselves, giving them protection from the cold but denying them earthly life. Beware of the kustaka when camping in Alaska. Is the kustaka a mythical creature or real? The answer to this question depends on the person that you ask. Many Tlingit people believe that the kustaka is a real creature meant to harm them. Who started this legend of the kustaka? Many believe that the legend of kustaka began with the Tlingit mothers, warning their children to stay away from the dangers of the ocean and the deep wilderness. Since kustakas were along the coast and in nature, the stories taught kids not to fall for the kustaka's trickery and to stay away. Is the kustaka the reason why people are disappearing from Alaska? Alaska is the wild frontier, but it's no different from any other location regarding mythical creatures or genuine threats. No matter your belief in the kustaka, the state is a destination for adventurers and explorers. A Russian haunting. Before Alaska was an American territory or state, it was a Russian colony in North America. The Russians built lodgings there, including castles. One Russian castle, Baranof Castle in Sitka, Alaska, has been a site of hauntings even before the official handover of Alaska from Russian to American control happened there in 1867. There had long been sightings of a ghostly, mournful lady in dark clothing at the castle, and they were a local legend by the time the Americans took control of Alaska. The ghost was said to be that of a Russian woman who committed suicide there on her wedding night, after being forced to marry a man that she did not love. The castle is today called Castle Hill and is popular with tourists. Some still report sightings of the ghostly Russian lady. She is also said to sometimes haunt the nearby Russian bishop's house in Sitka too. Ship Creek, Alaska. In 1987 in Anchorage, Alaska, a Native American woman named Marie was brutally murdered at Ship Creek. Visitors report hearing her cries for help and seeing her apparition running alongside the creek. Her murder is still unsolved to this day, which only adds to the eeriness. When traveling about downtown, be on the lookout for anything out of the ordinary. You might just see her. And now you know a little bit about the paranormal side of Alaska. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Creepy Urban Legends, Alaska, from Tales Told in the Dark. Thank you guys for watching. Please leave that comment. Thank you guys. See you next time.